What's going on? What's going on? What's going on? Hello, hello, hello. Hello to everybody who potentially joins into the chat and for those who comes in later. I see already some people already earlier. See Manager Sigma, thank you so much. At Thigh Highs, Ichiban Games. I'm gonna have some other people come in. Well, first off, welcome. My name is RIDAIGO. That's how my bio looks. That's how we roll. And welcome to day 2 of Indie Showcase. Hey Ichiban, I'll be dropping in a second. So first off, this is the second day of Indie Showcase. Thank you for those who came in yesterday. We broke 110 plus followers, so dang, that's crazy. Did not expect myself to get to that. So thank you all for the support. Today we got 3 action-packed games. I went ahead and tweeted that earlier. But we have some awesome stuff going. As usual, we try our best to get a lot of the devs into the chat. I know for the 2 upcoming games, after Cannon Custodian, we unfortunately could not get a hold of the devs. The devs at that point in time are actually busy with some stuff, but they actually answered some awesome questions, so we have some stuff from them. But we get to hear from the source themselves, or one of the sources themselves, for this upcoming game. So our first upcoming game is actually an awesome retro-inspired game. It's called Cannon Custodian, and we get to hear a good part from word of mouth from one of the big pieces of the dev team. So give me a moment. I'm gonna drop into the Discord, and we're gonna have our guests introduce themselves, and then get to know them a little bit, and then we'll launch straight over into what we got going on. So give me like one quick moment. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Hey, how's it going?
Oh, it is peachy. How are all you in listening land? How's it going?
Give them a second to go ahead. Hopefully that goes through quick.
It's always got a delay, you know.
Yeah, it happens. It happens.
How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Actually, I'm actually really stoked we got this to work for the voice chat in here. It's been a little bit weird with my setup, but I'm glad we got it working.
Yeah, well, it's awesome. I love the fact that you've got like .hack stuff as your
yes. I
So,
always love finding someone who actually like knows what I'm about a little bit. So I'm glad that you recognize it.
it's you know what's ridiculous? I have all the games, except for I think there was the one that only came out in Japan or whatever it was. It was like some like weird disc game. And what's up there, Zero?
What's
How
good,
are you?
guys?
Not much. Well, we're just doing an interview, hanging in there. So
Really?
yes,
Can I get an interview? I'm really interesting.
uh,
And funny
we're
too.
we're unable, unfortunately. But just sit back and he's gonna ask me a bunch of stuff. So because we're going live, we're live right now.
I won a Shotgun Farmers tournament.
Cool. But
Well,
so
no, it's all good. Going off what you said, actually, to dovetail that, yes, I do have the games too. I actually did get a hold of the ones from Japan, so I do have those. I have my little .hack shrine. It is my favorite anime series as well as game series. So I have most of the games and collector's editions that I've imported, as well as some of the art books. But it's definitely something that I enjoy a lot.
nice. I need to play them. I have so many video games that I need to play, and it's just insane. Like everybody's gonna be like at my throat, but like I've like every Pokemon game. Still haven't played them.
Wait, what?
Yeah, exactly. I got like I've got over 7,000 games in my collection basically right now.
You know what? That's a good and a bad problem to have. It's like when you see a Steam sale and you get a bunch of the stuff on Steam, you're like, oh, I'm gonna get to it. You never do. Your backlog continues to grow and grow, and then
these are all physical.
More time. Yeah, no, this is different. This is the physical side of stuff. With that being said, like technology moves forward, and a lot of our tech isn't that backwards compatible with our newer TVs or any of that. So then we gotta figure out some way to finagle other things to get it to work.
For me, it's time. It's like I'm always like making games or whatever, so I don't have a chance to actually play. I mean, the last game that I played, that was, put out there, whatever, I want to say was, I don't know. I want to say it was like Deadly Towers, but I didn't have a chance to finish it. And
the archery game, that one.
No, it's a Nintendo game. I I was playing like Mike Tyson's Punch Out for a bit, and I got to Mike Tyson finally. I never did before, and I ended up where when I did, I ended up just I didn't get my butt kicked, but then it was like, I still need to go and play it to beat it, and I just haven't. I was playing a game called Rad Gravity on Nintendo, and that game is awesome. And it's like, I hope I got the password somewhere because like I had it down because that game is awesome. I was like, oh, I'm getting there. I'm getting closer. Right. And just whatever. So, but it is what it is. Oh, look at that! I got a wonderful ad.
Oh yeah, that's the nice thing about the Twitch thing that I'm not happy about. I will be transparent for anybody who's watching as well, and as well for you right now. Yeah, ads just autoplay. I tried stopping it, and it just won't stop. Can't stop.
Yeah,
won't stop. Thank you so much for.
There's like a way to do it. There's like a way to do it too. It's like something like I think it's like a exclamation ad roll or something, and something like that.
I'm still fresh, so I'll figure that one out. I'll look into that. But before we get into the game itself, like I know you're into the chat as Ichiban Games, but for a lot of our viewers over at home and for my friends that are like at work listening, if you don't mind giving us a introduction of yourself.
So, after Taco Bell is done doing their little promotion, and now I don't know what this is. These guys just throwing flower petals at the screen. He's trying to be all GQ. He's like, look at me. Let me smile at you. Oh, let me rip my shirt off. Oh, myself. Whatever. Some fragrance called myself. I don't know. And then I don't know some.
I gotta look later what my ads.
I don't know what this is.
Figure out what's going
Minecraft?
on.
This is like Corn Stress City 4. I don't know what that is. It sounds like a mobile thing. Oh, it's okay. Oh, yeah, we're back. We're back. All right. So we got some thigh highs in the chat.
Yeah, that's my friend. Don't worry about that thigh. The water thing was for another time. That was for another time. Another game series, another time. But
there we go.
But
it's like stay hydrated, my friends.
Exactly.
All right. So to tell you about me, since we're like back in action here. So my name is Mark. I am doing the game Cannon Custodian. My buddy Rob is coding it. He is maybe going to jump in here. I don't know what's going to be happening. We'll see. But I am art, music, design in general. I am a lot of things. And I am. I've been making board games and video game stuff like always, like ever since I was small. Like I was always drawing and creating and whatever. I'm a touring musician, so I do that, and I do like a lot of other little dabbling of stuff that kind of goes into like the art realm or musical realm, and like I do screen printing and stuff. So I'm always like drawing stuff, hand drawing, do different things there. And I try to be an entertaining showman, I guess. So the best way to be, right? So
yeah.
But yeah, man.
Well, I appreciate you having you on. We're gonna go ahead and launch the game, and there's some questions I do want to field towards you as we play the game.
Absolutely.
I think one kind of hits me the minute we start, but let me switch the scene over. Let me get Cannon Custodian up.
Absolutely.
And hopefully Rob gets to join us when he can.
Yeah. And if everybody's wondering, I met this man over at MagFest, which was good times. MagFest was great. I was very happy, like having a chance to like play a bunch of different games, meet a bunch of different people. So yeah.
Oh yeah, no, that was definitely lots of fun.
And there it is. It's fired up.
Yeah. And so here's my big question, and I'm gonna hit enter, get a start on here. So there we go. So and hopefully the game volume's not overpowering on, and let me actually lower it just a little bit on the system side. 1 second. I know the game kind of freezes when I tab out. There we go. So, what was your biggest inspiration on the art style? Because I won't lie, like I the minute I went to your booth, and looked at the game, what really got me really hooked was actually that little introductory, like I would say, cutscene or animation. You got this little janitor guy, he cleans up a little bit of the cabinet itself, and you just sucked in. Like, what's up?
Yeah. So the in terms of like the game itself, I mean, it is definitely, you know, off of like say like arcade games from back in the past, right? Like you were gonna have your missile commands, your commando raids, stuff like that. It was definitely supposed to be in the exact era of 1980 to 1981, where they were like just kind of finding out like what some of the limitations they were trying to push. Which you could see it with like Missile Command and Centipede and like Pac-Man and things like that. So you'd see it by like arcade machines from like Midway, some with Namco, Williams, Bally Midway, stuff like that. Sega had a couple of things. There's some of their older kind of stuff. And yeah, there was even Konami had some of the older stuff back then. So that was what we were just definitely trying to go, and I was trying to hit on that note, because if you look at the colors, like I tried to go and do something like I want to say purposely almost make it look like garbage. I don't know what you want to call it. It's just that I tried to go and have it be a certain bunch of color palettes where I'm not having a lot of colors. So I almost got a little bit afraid that it was too colorful in certain spots, like bosses and other stuff. And you're gonna see that more in the later progressive of this game, doing stuff that you'll see like just in general. But I tried to keep it very simple, of the maximum of like 4 colors on an enemy, or something. Because if you there was a game that was over at MagFest that was very, very it was very interesting, because it was very much the style of what we are doing here, of the art style. It was a game called Bumpy Grumpy, or Grumpy Bumpy, something like that. And that one, it felt really good of like how this was, and that's kind of like, I'm like, all right, good, we nailed it, we're on the right track, all that. So all those arcade games from back in the day, they always had like not many colors. If you look at a game like say Robotron 2048, or I think it's 2048, 2040, whatever it was, that game has a good amount of colors, but it's like they don't have tons of them on the same character and whatnot. So I tried to kind of do stuff like that. And if you guys are like seeing the screen here, like this is like one of the bosses. There is 1, 2, 3 colors that are there. If it's anything that's black was never really a color. It was more of like just color is omitted, and that was kind of that. It's just how it got layered, and that's how you would kind of have that to make sure like, oh, this will go over the foreground or the background or whatever. So things that they pass through it or over it, that's kind of that there. So I wanted to make sure that this was arcade style and not just be like, oh, here's Nintendo,
Right, you want to give it its own unique identity onto it.
Yeah, and it's tough. It's very tough, because even like in the sound palette that I have, I'm using Family Tracker, and Family Tracker is Famicom styled sounding stuff. So, which is Nintendo, and you can emulate basically some things of what it would be in the arcade, but a lot of those arcade machines, they just had their own sound chips and whatever. Like, I just don't have that capability. I just don't have it. Like, I don't know what engines or whatever they're using, and a lot of those people are just programming, just by programming, making sound. So they're wizards. I don't know what they're doing. It's just they're doing like so much. So, but I tried to do like as much as I could. I wanted to try to keep it very authentic. Yeah, just basically, we got really good feedback on those departments. So I'm super stoked.
I hope you don't mind me interrupting. Like I was saying, like that's the one thing like
really
stood out the most for me actually at Fest was your guys' authenticity to like the actual era, because I know like one of my friends, he loves collecting old consoles. So one of the things that I got to really try out a lot of was like in Intellivision, ColecoVision, see like what a lot of those games were about. Atari 2600, 5200, like oh dang it, there it goes. I got to try a lot of those older games, and the charm of it was really there. I never really spent that much time with kind of arcade-esque games besides kind of the old Nintendo ones like the Popeye cabinet or the Donkey Kong cabinet. Like I played a lot of those, but when it came to shooter games, I didn't have that kind of I would say introduction like until I started the Atari-based games.
Yeah, the only ones that were, I mean, there were some that were in the arcades, but there was like, in terms of shooters, there were, I mean, you always had Space Invaders. You then had Ozma Wars, which only was in Japan. That was the first SNK game, but it got bootlegged, which, I actually have a bootleg Ozma Wars that came over here. It's called Solar Fight, and that's like a rarity 10 arcade machine. I'm crazy. But anyway,
if I had the space on an arcade machine, I would. Unfortunately, Studio Apartment declines me.
Yeah, it's so good. I love crazy stuff, but yeah. So like when it comes to those games of that era, there were a lot of different things. Games like this, there were not a lot of. There was Missile Command, and on Atari there was Commando Raid, and it was interesting because like after MagFest, it was very funny because like Rob is a new guy that's on the project, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it was funny because like Rob was like, well, some people were asking like, well, why doesn't the tank move and this and that? I'm like, well, I don't want to have to get into the lore of it, but here's all the lore, blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
And it's like, how do you go and say like, well, game is because game is game, and because game equals game. It's one of those like, why does it act this way? Because it just acts this way. There you go.
That's
it's
just
like
how
one of the.
It's built this way.
Yeah. It's kind of like, but why, Mom? Because I freaking said so. That's why.
Yeah. Exactly.
So no, but no, it's more like this game. It was interesting when there is only a couple games like this, and like Rob was saying, like, well, why don't we make it be where the tank can move around and stuff? People were asking. It's like when the tank moves around. I said, well, here's the thing: if you go and you have the tank move around, it's just another shooter.
Yeah.
And because of it not moving around, it's not a shooter. It's a turret defense game. So there's not many of those. And don't get me wrong, there's probably more than what I mentioned. I mean, there's probably games I can't even think of, right? But in terms of like what there is of what I've known, what I've played, and whatever, like this game was originally meant to be like, okay, cool. It's gonna be kind of like a quicker game. You pick it up, you play it, whatever. Yeah. And the thing is, though, is it's kind of developed into just a little bit more than that. Because let's say Galaga, you go and you play Galaga, you pick it up, you see how far you can get. There you go. In the game Galaga 90, which was on like TurboGrafx, and it's on in like, I think it was in arcades too, if I'm right. I don't remember, but I never saw it in the arcade. But You know, it could have been in other places I was not.
Mm-hmm.
But they had bosses in that calendar, and it's like, you know, it breaks up the monotony and things like that. And it's kind of like this, you know, you have different things that break up the monotony, and you know, you have enemies that go under you and just different stuff. So you know, it has its formula, but it's always going to change. There's always going to be something that's getting introduced new to you, of different enemies, different bosses, and just different stuff. And we're going to be doing a lot with this game from the suggestions that were pooled to us.
Yeah.
And I'm excited. I'm excited. We're now that MagFest is over, and I just got done doing the Global Game Jam. Now that that's done, now it's like, all right, free. I can work on this. I can do this. You know, so we're pretty excited. We're pretty excited for this.
Well, I know I asked you like about inspiration as well, but I guess another big one that I would like to ask. When you first concepted the idea, you said that you were inspired by the older games. You really enjoyed that kind of era. But like, was there originally a different plan you thought ahead of time when you were concepting this idea? Like, did you think, oh, you know what, maybe Cannon Custodian is going to be more of a side scroller? Did you initially just knew it off the top of your head when concepting this? You know what, I kind of really enjoy the time of like missile/tower defense genre. Like, I know this is my path. Or did this have many different types of iterations?
Yeah, this was actually, I knew exactly what I was doing.
Oh, you were good. That. You were good.
Yeah. I'm like, but the thing was, originally the idea was to go and only do like 15 levels. That was it. Done, right? And then when after like things were set, I'm like, you know what? I have to give more, because I don't know how to say it this way, and I'm gonna sound like a total jerk. So everybody out there in Gameland, don't slap me across the face. In the world of back in the day, people would just be happy with what there was of, like, say you play the game Phoenix. The game Phoenix goes over, I think it's like 3 levels, maybe 4 maximum. Could be 5. But yeah, like with Phoenix, you're going, and once you go through it, then you go and you play it again. It's a little bit harder. They have a little more shots. There's different stuff like that, and it's like, okay, you know, there's, if it's only 3 levels and it goes over and over and over, people aren't going to be like, okay, you know, I'm happy with this. I want to pay X amount for this, right? So I said, I have to make this game a little bit bigger. So therefore, there's going to be more levels, more everything. And that's kind of it. Like, more levels, more bosses, more. Because in this day and age, and this is where people might slap me across the face, I think now, because everybody has been so they've been exposed to so many more advanced games that they don't kind of like want a smaller game. They need something that's more.
Yeah.
And that's kind of it. And I hate using the term saying like, well, gamers are spoiled. Blah. But I look at it myself, like, I want to play a game that has a lot of content all the time. And that's kind of where it is for me too. So I don't blame anybody saying like, oh, well, we want more content. Well, that's the way it is. I'm going to make sure I'm giving people content. I want to make sure people are happy and all that, because it ain't like back in the day of like, you pop in Space Invaders and boop, there it is. There you go, you know?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I knew exactly what I was doing on this. It was just like the scope was more like really, really less of doing it. And now it's like, well, yeah, I know what I have to do to make it bigger and better and whatever, so people will want to spend money on it and
Yeah.
can do that.
And I think that's the thing too that I will agree with. Like a lot of the games that I'm still kind of more in the millennial generation, but the one thing I tend to really appreciate, especially when my uncle brought his NES over and his Atari to just show me what gaming was about, was that a lot of the games, like when you got the cartridges, when you got the ROMs, when you got whatever X, Y, and Z, it was complete. There was content there that it got you feeling satisfied, but there was enough in there that had you coming for more. And I do agree to, like, again, to the opinion that you give, like, where yeah, some games themselves, like, you're expecting a lot more out of it. You're not expecting like the labor of love that kind of like you're putting into here, where like, hey, you're giving variety, you're giving some form of content, some form of challenge, but the challenge is something that keeps them coming for more, versus with some games it's kind of more of a one and done kind of factor. You don't really feel that happy with it.
Yeah, and also you never want to be labeled as shovelware.
Oh yeah, yes. That is another thing too. You don't want to go ahead and go down that route. You don't.
Yeah.
Um, and I guess to dovetail off that, because since you already had a finalized conception, I know like for a lot of the music itself, like there's obviously we're more on sound effects side. If you don't mind me saying it that way, like we're going more for like when you shoot something or when you explode something, you feel that kind of sound impact. Um, what would you say like? Is there a specific? I know you said you looked off to what, the Famicom, the NES font. Like, what would you say is the game that actually gave you feeling the most impact? What soundtrack or what kind of sound effects did you enjoy? I know for me, for Neo Geo, when I played a lot of Neo Geo games, it was the Metal Slug games. Sure, they were animated like crazy, but it was just the sound effects from like
I
gun
love
to
Neo Geo.
explosion. Yeah, like just
I love it.
it's just they did something with their sound quality that just sounded like
But
it didn't belong on that at all.
yeah, Neo Geo. I'm going to tell you this. I'll give you a little insight. The next game that I'm going to be making that's a video game that's after this one. Once this is done, it's going to be very graphically Neo Geo Sega CD. So you will probably enjoy very much. And it's have you ever played Aero Fighters 2
Yes.
on Neo Geo? It's gonna feel like that, but even crazier. So I love Aero Fighters. I love it. I love that series so much. Oh my god. But anyway. But yeah, so in terms of the sound on this, I think the sound for this game, it was, once again, it was to be, 1980 to 81 style. Back then, they didn't have like real music. I mean, they had music, but it was jingles. It wasn't like loop stuff. The one of the only loop things that they really kind of had back then was Pac-Man. And Pac-Man, because I want to say Pac-Man was 1980. It was 80 or 81 was Pac-Man. Yeah. I don't want to give the wrong date because I don't sound like an idiot. But the thing was, is like
the era of that, like near there.
Yeah, so if you listen to the board music of Pac-Man, all it is a wave that goes over and over and over and over. And all it does is when you hit a certain threshold, it changes it and speeds it up. And that's all it is. So if you play, like in terms of this game, the boss level has where it's doing the same thing of just a continual loop. So it does have that. But there are jingles in between each level and just other stuff. So I love the jingle in between the levels. I love it. It's so crazy. So it's just a really cool riff. I remember seeing people over at MagFest, like they'll be sitting in the seat, and then the jingle comes up and they just start swaying back and forth, like all excited or something. It was just you just like witness it. It was interesting.
Yeah, so like I like it whenever I transition. Like I won't lie, when I transition between levels, like in Cannon Custodian, like my knees start doing the little bop because I just feel like, okay, I'm getting ready. It just sounds nice.
So there's a lot that in terms of actually, there is something that that is going to be added that is not in here that you're seeing on the demo. So there are going to be shooting gallery levels, and the shooting gallery levels are going to be able to go and have they're going to have music, and you're going to be shooting balloons in those levels, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you're shooting those balloons in those levels, what ends up happening is they're going to be moving to the music and stuff like that. So that's how we're going to try and program it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So kind of like how Galaga had a thing called Galactic Dancing, and it's kind of in that idea of that. So you will go and you'll have it move into the music, do that kind of stuff. The music is like, I think there's one that's like 20 seconds, another one that's like 30 seconds long, whatever. So they're not really long songs. They're just enough where, let's say on an arcade cabinet, this game, if it was an arcade cabinet from the 80s, this might be like a very, very large board circuitry, whatever it would have, because there's just a lot of different stuff with this. Because there would be a lot more sprites and stuff like that, in different coatings or whatever that it's being used. So I hope this isn't like so advanced of a game from that era, because like I would love to see if this would actually be actual circuitry hardware, but that's a pipe dream probably. But we are going to go and have an actual arcade machine, and we're gonna go and do that for sure.
Yeah, because like the one thing I got to witness at Mac, because it was my first fest, and seeing like the one thing I managed the arcade department, and a lot of games that were like similar to this kind of style in there. You're right; those machines are pretty hefty. Like there's a lot in there. So I was actually quite surprised.
Did you manage the arcade department?
Yeah, so I was the manager for like the late shift. So
that's awesome.
Oh yeah, no, it was super fun. But the one thing is like we had to load out and load in a lot of the machines, and a lot that I noticed that a lot of the machines from this kind of era of gaming, they were behemoths. Like we had I believe it was a Xevious or Zaxxon or Xevious machine and a Centipede machine, and that thing was just, I think it was a monster, and I was surprised as to like how much you needed to have going on into like a game that just that graphically doesn't look insane, but there's so much in there just to get it running.
You know what's crazy is I actually did not have a chance to actually go to the arcade area. I probably had the chance, it was just like slipped my mind, because I was like running on okay, like business.
Oh yeah, of course.
I would have loved to play some of the pinball there. It would have been a good time. There's this kind of thing. Like, we're gonna go and definitely make an arcade machine at some point. I would love to do like a trackball for for doing stuff. Something like we're addressing like some of the people were like, when I end up getting the power up, like one of the weapons, like it gets spent right away for getting shot, right? Like, so we're gonna add like another button. So it's like, you got this power up, boom, you can go and use that power up with this alternative button. So you're not like firing right away.
Okay, so I don't have to waste it or accidentally like shoot like that's the one thing I will say. Like I like the laser power up, but like obviously when you use it, it goes away quick. Versus like if I wanted to aim and shoot like another enemy, I don't want to waste the laser. So you're saying that'll be an option. I can store it and use it for like a clutch moment.
Yeah. It is going to be like a time down thing. Like you got to use it within so many seconds.
Oh yeah,
but
lose it.
You at least can have some sort of agency to go and do something,
I like that. That gives a little bit more of a layer of strategy, in my opinion. I like that.
Yeah. So let me ask you this question, because I had an idea. It was funny because it was the day after I woke up in my bed after MagFest at home, after like a really long night of driving, because it's like 7 hours from MagFest, and I ended up going to like rest stops and just like sleeping there for like a half hour here, half hour there. I was tired, bro. It was crazy. I was like, when I got up in the morning, I'm like, I woke up and I'm like, oh, I got this idea. And when you get to level 8, or if you get to there's actually, I don't know how far you end up getting in the past, like over at MagFest on this too, but there's a boss that is quite the jerk for when you're that you're getting lasers shot at you, right? By like, say that the UFOs and whatever. I was thinking of having a button that maybe you hold it and then you can press the controller so you can dodge. Just do a teeny bit of a dodge. And then you scoot out of the way. But, you know, but I don't know if people can hear me because of Photoshop is doing their wonderful commercials.
Well, just in case onto there, I will like. So, you're thinking if there was going to be a little bit more of a maneuverability on a boss?
Yeah. Yes. So, like, you can, if it's more or less that, like, if they're shooting a laser, you just move out of the way and boop, there you go. You can just move by that little bit out of the way. So you're not going to be frozen. You're just going to dodge it. But it's kind of like a separate little skill in itself, right? And that's what I was kind of thinking. Like, if it's a separate little skill in itself where you're doing that, that might be the way to go. That just might be the way to go. And,
I mean,
yeah.
The most I could say for that portion, like, and I haven't gotten that far yet to, like, really, you know, have that weight of an opinion on it. I will say that does sound good. I guess for me, since I'm still getting used to all the different power-ups and all the different abilities, it might lose me, or I might get confused all the way through. Is that something that, if you're concepting that idea, do you think you're going to keep it as a permanent function, or something just for that fight? Like, hey, that is just for that fight. That is it.
Permanent function is what I would do, because then that way you could just like jump out of the way.
Oh,
like, boop. Yeah. So it's like, oh, here you go. This is the good stuff. Right here,
Oh no! No!
Look at that. So, you're this is level 10. So you're like 2/3 through if you beat this guy. So, but yeah, basically, we'll have it where if you're getting shot at by a laser, you could like dodge that laser. I wonder if that's a good idea. That's something I want to like kind of like gauge interest. And so everybody out there in game land, do you mind if I like pop down the download? Like, people can download this game.
No. That's the other thing I was gonna really encourage as well. And I actually had your link ready to go in case you end up wanting to do that. I definitely encourage that for anybody who's like into the retro gaming scene, or want to see like a lot of like these type of era of games. I definitely encourage you to go ahead and post that into our chat. Definitely.
Yeah, because like what'll be good is like everybody can get this game. This is like, well, the download anyway. It's free to download. We have the downloads for Windows, Mac, Linux, and you know, it's pretty wild. It's I think there's like a harder version of it too. Like when we had it a little bit harder, so it used to be insane, dude. It was so much stuff, even more crazy stuff happening in this. But well, actually, that kind of brings me to another point. The idea of what we're gonna do in this game as well is we are gonna have game modes as well, and custom configurations and everything. I know you and me talked about making like palette swaps for colors.
Yes.
And that is absolutely, like, I starred that as soon as like that feedback was given to me. Like, I starred that. I'm like, this is absolutely, we're doing this, we're making this good, and I absolutely want to like make that be a thing. You know, if it makes people accessible, be able to play the game, you know, that's fantastic. And you know, we'll say like Big Daddy Nintendo, because if we can get this on Switch, you know, they would be like, oh yes, good, that's wonderful. Thank you for thinking of the community, because they're all about that. So if we can go and make things be strong for all gamers, because like no game company is gonna be like, no, I don't want to go and do this. I don't want to get more sales. You know, those places will be like, yeah, dude, let's make it happen. So, I think that. Oh man, you're doing really good, by the way.
Oh no, I think I'm reaching the end of my rope.
Yeah, you're doing all right. Oh, look at that! See, blast the worm right before. Yeah, it's crazy, man. We have definitely been. There was a lot of people saying like they want different buttons to try and do if they could do it, and I said sure. You know, why not? I'm all about toggling controls and stuff like that. So there's going to be that. There's going to be game modes where like so technically what we are going to have, I always say we're going to have that was the best place to shoot that spark bomb too. That was wonderful. Like I love that weapon. Oh man. Oh boy. That's wonderful.
I'm sorry, continue. My apologies. I was in the
oh my god, I'm like so fixated to see, dude. That was great. You almost got to the very end.
Oh.
So that's wonderful. You got very close to the end. So, but yeah, like what we do. Actually, I think you were one level away from the boss. So, yeah, and that boss, he's crazy. So look at that. Your score just keeps getting better and better.
I'm getting into it. I'm figuring out enemy patterns. That's the other.
Well, you know what?
Oh, go ahead.
You know what's crazy is that like this game, each level is 30 seconds long, basically. Except for level 8 is 25. That's one with like all the little red devil ninjas, and then there's like the UFOs and the beetles that go underneath. All of that, like every level is about 30 seconds long, except for like bosses. A boss could be as quick or as not quick as you're like shooting at it and defeating it and stuff, right? So
yeah.
So there's that. Basically, it is where we're gonna have it where like say like this level right here, right? We're gonna have an easy mode where like okay, you get. I'm actually I take that back. It's not called an easy mode. It's just like regular mode, right?
Like more relaxed.
Where like say you're playing through this mode, you're getting through it. There you go. But let's say like you die later on, you could have continues. You could start off from the beginning of that board's wave. Like, oh, I died at the one where it's all like snowy, and I died at the boss. Well, okay, you can continue, but you'll continue back like at the beginning of the snow levels, right? So something like that. So not too punishing. But then, like, let's say, like, you want to pick up this game later on, and it's got, like, some auto-save feature or whatever. You don't want to go through this portion, because you don't, pick up the game again. You already did this. You don't want to go through these, like say, like, levels 1 to 3 are kind of the training levels, right? Yeah. You don't want to go through those. So you're like, all right, I'm going to skip those levels. Cool. That's fine. So the thing is like, you can go through the first game and be like, oh, I can skip levels, I can go where I need to be, and that's it. Well, let's say you go and you beat the boss. Well, cool, you can go and do the level skip for this kind of thing, but that's only this mode, where there's going to be like 85 levels, 16 bosses.
Yeah.
Cool, all that. But the thing is that once you go and you beat this mode, you're going to unlock the arcade mode. And the arcade mode is going to be another 85 levels, 16 bosses, and the bosses are going to be the same bosses that you'll face, but they might do like different things. Maybe one will shoot where it never shot before, or it'll do different behaviors or whatever. and it's going to be like the true way that, you know, and you have to do it in one run. So yeah, you might beat the game on the one mode, but you need to go and to be like the master, if you will, and beat the real game. You have to go and actually complete it like the one run. Here's all the levels and whatever.
Oh, kind of like how Mario Brothers has like the lost levels, the quote unquote, the real Mario Brothers, the hard one. Like, hey,
Sure.
you enjoyed Cannon Custodian like at surface level, but now this is actually Cannon Custodian.
Yeah.
Now you got to knuckle down a bit.
Yeah, this is like, all right, this is how it goes. It's still gonna be like, it's gonna be probably like some of this kind of level of like where it's crazy, because you want it to be fair, right? I want it to make sure it's fair and good, but if I'm able to make it be where, you know, it's going to give a good challenge, and people are doing that's what's what. But not only that, we're going to have an endless mode, so there's going to be just endless waves of enemies, and we're going to have a mode for boss rush. And we had a couple speedrunners come up to the booth, and they were like, "Oh yeah, boss rush would be great. We can, you know, speed run through." I'm like, I don't know if people are really trying to go and get the leaderboard of Cannon Custodian's, you know, quickest time, but I was never really meant for that. Whatever, he's like, you'll be surprised. Some speedrunners just play some wacky stuff just to do some stuff, and it's like, hey, you know what? If people want to buy it just to go and do that, cool. There's a game for everybody for whatever purpose they may have, you know?
Yeah, like
so,
I have a friend of mine that I met in the speedrunning community. He speedruns Pictionary. I don't know why. He does that on the NES.
Wild.
I don't understand what you're racing against there, but yeah, that's his decision.
You know, that's funny. I've never thought of running Pictionary. That's funny.
That is
funny.
Part of me thinks it's just a novelty of it. Like, I don't know. I don't think
it's actually who can draw the quickest, you know? That's pretty wild.
I guess who could draw the quickest, but who could discern what the hell you're drawing in that time frame?
Yeah. Yeah. So I yeah.
Like, I did also want to ask, because you did say it earlier, your potential plan for, like, obviously the next game you say is Neo Geo inspired. Is your whole methodology when it comes to like the games you all design, like, are you trying to create soundtracks and sound effects that are from that era, so you try to keep it like as authentic as possible? So like for this one here, we already know what you're aiming for, but for that potential idea for what's next for that Neo Geo type game, are you just gonna make it sound like a Neo Geo game? You're just gonna have it just go nuts? Like, what's your deal? What's your idea for that?
This one, like you said, is kind of more on point in the era. I don't know exactly on that other one, because like my thoughts of that game were, I definitely wanted a throwback feel of that era, but I wanted a little bit of the MIDI that you would hear in that era, but I wanted to go and have real musicians on stuff too, where like if you listen to the just breaking out CD stuff and the games of that era that were cart, they did have interesting musics that were MIDI and also a little bit of actual instruments and whatever. And I feel that like some of the music that you're going to listen to of this day and age, it's really very orchestrated, and it's almost like it almost feels overly processed. Mm-hmm. Even though the games back then had more processing in them for what they were doing, because you're using like synth MIDI keyboards and stuff like that. But you listen to a game like, say, Grandia, the soundtrack, you're like Grandia or whatever, you're gonna or Wild Arms or some of those just
sorry,
yeah, so
that's super random.
Yeah, so like that music, like if you listen to that music, say like Wild Arms 1 was definitely pixelated and whatever, but you had that soundtrack that it had actual sounding, you know, music to it, but it was very, very. They did use the synths, so I want to get into that era where it's like Sega CD of like think like Lords of Thunder. There's Sapphire on PC Engine. You would have just a lot of really strong, cool music. Like say Robo Alas on Sega CD was good. There was a lot of really good, strong music, especially ones with like really ripping guitars and different stuff. But I want to go and have stuff with like really cool moods and stuff too, where there was a couple certain ones like that if I do have that, happen, there's going to be a lot of levels. Like there's going to be one where you're in a castle that's very, very like Asian styled like instruments and things like that, but it's going to be very like slow and like I don't say slow and subtle, but like the open air is also the instrument, if you will. Sometimes the silence within it is the instrument. Yeah. So it's gonna be like hectic. So you're gonna hear like explosions and blasts and this and that and the other thing, which is, exploding things is kind of a soundtrack in itself.
Yeah.
So kind of like how this game is. Like you're hearing like a lot of explosions that go on. So
yeah, no, like, and it definitely helps build that little ambiance of that temple where you're in. So no,
yeah.
I get you.
But that's another thing too. So, but yeah, I want to go in and have just really cool soundtracks and music for what I have. So it's not particularly like, oh, I need to make it this way. Or I think it's like half and half. Like it's half a design choice, half the what's this going to call for. And I think, oh, that was a wonderful sweep there. I think it's just like it all kind of depends, man. And pretty happy about it. I'm pretty stoked. So yeah.
That's the one thing. Like you see me like just going and going. I think the one thing that really got to me is that this game, like you find patterns. You can improve on a lot of your stuff, which I think is like really, really nice for me. I enjoy studying enemy patterns in a lot of different games.
Yeah.
Oh god.
What's good too is like even though like you can find out the patterns, there's still some skill. Like you got to try and do what you can do. So
exactly.
Like how you just shot that blue guy and he went the one way. You shot him again, he came right back, which. You shot him like right at the right time. Oh, the crack bird! I call the ones that go really fast. The birds are on crack.
Oh, no, that thing caught me off guard. Okay, this is new for me. So,
Here you go. This is the last boss. Here we go.
So this is where it might actually get rough for me. So it says shoot when red, and I think this is when you and I discussed the whole color thing.
Yeah. So it's like always on the sides is where you're gonna shoot them.
Oh god, what is happening?
Yeah.
Oh crap.
Yeah. Yep. So now this is why I was saying like maybe I might include a little dodge thing, right? So you can dodge it, and it's a skill in itself where you can dodge that laser instead of hitting you all the time, right?
Yeah. So, no, I get that.
You're managing really good, which is cool, but it's kind of like it is what it is, So
I'm trying to see if I can try to get through it. I'm kind of BSing my way. I'm not gonna lie to you.
You're doing fine. He's almost dead. He's gotta be.
Nope.
Oh man. I'm like watching in anticipation.
No! He slipped through! Oh!
Oh man.
That one worm slipped through.
Oh man, I thought you had it too. I really thought you had it. he probably had like one more hit because I want to say he's like 10 or 15 hits.
Dang.
And you were definitely damaging him.
Dang.
Yeah, that was wonderful.
All right.
That was wonderful. But yeah, that's the last boss. There is a cutscene after doing that too.
But, obviously you can't spoil that. I hope I get out of the machine. I hope my guy gets out of the machine. I did want to go ahead and thank you for your time. We are getting close to that hour, so it's going to give me a chance to kind of like grab some water and move on over to our next one. But first off, again, one more time for everyone out there, you're Ichiban Game, and your name is?
My name is Mark Miller from Ichiban Games. Come and find us and make board games, video games, and jump on IchibanGamesOfficial.com. I'll leave that in there too, so you got it. So
yeah,
and then you could see all the things.
Thank you so much.
We got a Discord too.
Yeah, definitely join their Discord, join their site, check out their stuff. They are awesome. I appreciate your time, Mark. Definitely, I'm gonna go ahead and hit you up, obviously next time. But other than that, thank you again for your time, for answering the questions. Thank you for sharing Cannon Custodian with us and with me over at MacFest. I appreciate you.
Absolutely. Thank you for playing. And if anybody ever has any questions or just wants to talk, I am happy to do so. I'm happy to converse. And I love all of you guys. Thanks for watching. And thank you so much for having us again. I really appreciate it. I know Rob appreciates it very much too. So,
yeah. Again, like, thank you again. I'm going to go ahead and bow out of here, but obviously stay in the chat if you have anything you want to go ahead and throw at us or want to go ahead and just see what else we got. But thank you again.
Thank you so much. And you guys all have a good one.
All right.